Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Yoleno TV. And previously, in my previous analysis, when I talked about the prophecies that were being communicated to the public, I talked about a prophecy from Reverend, or rather Pastor Ezekiel of the New Life Ministry. I talked about a looming rebellion, and you can go back to that video and see the content of that prophecy. I also talked about Abel, Prophet Abel, when Prophet Abel made a prophecy that the people, that the choice of God's choice is not the choice that people went for, and that more trouble was going to come as a result of that wrong choice. So we have another prophecy from one Dr. NDLOVU. This is a Ghanaian prophet, and I think something about this prophecy got me shocked. And I said that because I was shocked, the best thing to do was to communicate to my audience about this prophecy. Perhaps you might want to know a thing or two about the prophecy. But before we delve into that prophecy, please allow me to share a small video about what Dr. NDLOVU said.
Yes, so we must pray for number one and number two. They are there in East Africa. If you don't know who number one and number two are, just pray, God will show you who number one and number two. It's a prophecy about number one and number two. It's an East African prophet, or an East African prophet. Number one and number two, East African prophets. Number one and two, or numbers 1 and 2, or number 1 and number 2, East African prophets. So the owners of this message, they are hearing me. The people who are the intended audience of this message, they are hearing me. So God wants them to use the sword creatively, to even be a blessing to their enemies, or the people who are thinking that they are going to fail. Because God has released grace for them to succeed. So God does not want them to yield to the temptation of revisiting the past, to check who was abusing the sword against them. They must operate on a higher standard of forgiveness and love. Because according to the mind of God, for number 2, there is a dream that God showed the wife of number 2. That dream is not wishful thinking. The dream was a revelation of the mind of God about the future of number 2. About the future of whom? Number 2. So everything will depend on the divine appraisal of God at the end of their probation. So right now, after getting the sword from God, they are undergoing probation. God and his angels are recording whatever is taking place there. They are undergoing probation, not at the hands of men, but the person in charge of the probation is God, because it's God who employed them. Number 1 and number 2. They are undergoing what? Probation. So the promise of God is that if they are faithful in this probation, God will give them a very long assignment. But if they are not faithful in this probation, I saw the assignment being shortened. If they allow their followers to push them to doing things which they know are not wise for someone who is carrying a sword to do, God will shorten the span of their assignment. Not a human being, but God will shorten. So, but the mind of God is for their assignment to be very long. For their assignment to be what? To be very long. And for the dream of the wife of number 2, at a certain point to come to.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard for yourself. So many people have been wondering why Raila Amolo Odinga just accepted a defeat without even throwing a fight. It's not common, it's not usual of Raila Amolo Odinga to accept a defeat the way he did for this re-election, for this election of William Samoei Ruto. So Pastor, or rather Dr. NDLOVU, talked about a possible, rage that is looming, and this rage is likely going to be caused by the media. And he talked about, overusage by the government of the powers that have been bestowed on them. That they are saying that the prophet is saying that Kenya Kwanza government and the Ruto government will misuse their powers in an attempt to want to silence the opposition. So that's what Pastor, or rather Prophet, said. He talked about number one and number two to consult with one another, and that the best way for Kenya is for number one and number two to consult with one another. And I think in that prophecy, he said that God did not want him to mention names. So he's saying that number one and number two should sit down and talk to each other, talk with one another. But again, he said that they should pray to resist temptation to misuse powers. That's now directed to number one's government, that is William Samoei Ruto's government, that William Samoei Ruto should embark on a lot of prayers so that he can refrain from misuse of the powers that have been bestowed in him. So the good pastor hinted at an attempt to drive a rage between Ruto and Raila. So this will be fueled by the media, I say that, and that the state will find themselves using excess powers to silence the opposition. I also say that. So we also saw this kind of move, when the Azimio One Kenya Alliance MPs led by TJ Kajwang, when they decided to go to the anniversary towers because they were trying to fight for Ruth Kulundu, and we saw they were met by a lot of tear gases, a lot of resistance from the police. I think that we find that unconstitutional, because the constitution gives you mandate to do a peaceful demonstration. But the police decided to meet them with excessive resistance. Then there were a lot of tear gas in the air, a lot of rubber bullets, and that is already symbolic, and it's already justifying what the pastor is saying, that excessive power will be used towards the end of this year. And we saw that in that demonstration. So we have also seen mass resignation and most vocal leaders going silent. I think that most people are finding very strange, because if vocal leaders are going silent, and like the likes of Atwoli, they are going silent, that can only mean that they sense danger in this Kenya Kwanza government, that they are likely to silence people, going forward. So the pastor has confirmed the same in that short clip. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think the prophet made a prophecy that is justifiable, a prophecy that is correct? Kindly share what you think about that prophecy below the comment section there, if you think the prophecy made sense. Like I said when I started this analysis, that there was prophecy from Ezekiel about rebellion, and we've seen from the cabinet nomination that there is already growing discomfort in Mount Kenya. Waruguru and Ndindi are not happy about that list. So we expect rebellion to grow in that place, and we also expect, because the fuel prices have not decreased, despite the fact that the global prices of one barrel has reduced from $120 to $80, and yet the prices in the fuel in Kenya have not reduced. So we still expect more rebellion to come as a result of the same. We expect more rebellion to come as a result of inability by the Kenya Kwanza government to implement a subsidy on unga, a thing that will make the common mwananchi get unga at a lower price. That is also something that we expect to be seen. a growing rebellion. But we all want to talk about that because we talked about it when we were doing our analysis on Pastor Ezekiel's prophecy. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. NDLOVU has made it categorical that there is looming excessive use of power as a result of that prophecy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to wind up there, but please take a moment and subscribe to our channel if you are not subscribed previously. Also take a moment and share our channel widely. And until we meet again, I would like to say stay safe and stay blessed.